Your Excellency, there are very many other people that you've not recognized. Please allow me to just read out their names. Some of the members that I did not see earlier. We have the Honorable Member for Tiati, Honorable Kasait Kamket. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa. We have Senator Abishai of Kano. I had recognized Honorable Captain Rueda of Lamu of Kano. I had recognized Honorable Gladwell. I had recognized Dagoy. The Honorable Tindi Mwale of Butere is in the house. Honorable Tindi Mwale. Honorable Tindi Mwale. He is around. Honorable Millicent Abudho. Makofi yake. Your Excellency, you have some special guests that you have invited to this meeting today, whom would like to recognize. The Chancellor of the Chinese Embassy in Kenya, Mr. Wang from China. Delegates, tunaomba tafadhali, let us be together in the meeting. Muchie wale tunakaribisha. We have the second Secretary of the Chinese Embassy in Kenya, Mr. Zhang. Welcome, Mr. Zhang. We have your special guest, Your Excellency, from Sweden. We have Mrs. Celestine Davidson. Celestine Davidson. Welcome, madam. Welcome. We have Mr. Jengo Esma from Sweden. I hope I have pronounced the name properly. Thank you very much. He's there. Thank you and welcome. And then we have Mr. Eric Iri. Makofi kwake, karibu sana. Your Excellency, I will request that we go to the documentary. I will still name the other special guests that are with us today. Documentary tafadhali, fundi wa mitambo.
Hello.
I, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka,
nimesoma chini ya mti nikiwa primary school. Tukisema 6.1% economic growth ni kwa mifuko ya kikundi ambacho kinajulikana Kenya hii. We are not right. Kwa hivyo imefika ndugu wapenzi, ndugu wazalendo, imefika wakati sasa tuweke mamlakani serikali ambayo kwanza kiongozi wake atajua maana ya umaskini ni kitu gani.
We love this. I personally love this country. And I will therefore not accept anybody this time kuiba kura ya Kenya tena.
The 2007 general elections were like no other in our history. Kenya, an oasis of peace to its neighbors and the world, a country growing at an incredible 7% GDP, on its way to realizing middle-income status, had via the ballot and its manipulation turned fiery and chaotic, a no-go zone. More than 1,300 people were killed in the post-poll skirmishes and thousands of others displaced before a political truce was signed.
It was the most tragic period that our country has ever known since independence. And quite a period that nobody would ever want to get back to as a Kenyan. It was a time when our country had literally fallen and was almost reaching the category of a failed state. I recall vividly what I saw, for example, out of the happenings at Kiambaa Church, where because of ethnic intolerance, which had been hyped during the campaign, the Madoadoa campaigns, for example, that kind of thing, the people, ordinary Kenyans who had hitherto lived peaceably with each other, looked at each other suddenly as enemies who had to be eliminated. And so when a child was thrown back into the fire and an old woman also burned, that was the lowest moment in the history of our country. And that one wishes that Kenya will never go that way again. So it was terrible, really terrible. When we had also a good record of being the hub for peace in a troubled region with our neighbors in Somalia, we are trying to help them. We are trying to help our brothers and sisters in the Sudan. In fact, I remember naming our talks in Naivasha, just outside Lake Naivasha at Simba Lodge, as our Camp David, because that is when we negotiated conclusively the comprehensive peace agreement, which gave rise to the world's newest state, the Republic of South Sudan. While we are doing that, we are losing everything. We are losing everything. So it was something that should never happen. I pray to God, and God listens and hears prayer, that it would never happen ever again to this country. That was our lowest moment.
From its spectacular landscape, the earth-splitting force of the Great Rift Valley that was formed more than 20 million years ago, to the jaw-dropping peaks of Mount Kenya, to the azure waters and powder-white coastline, to close encounters with the Big Five, that is lion, elephant, rhino, leopard and the Cape buffalo, to the home of the world's most visible natural cycles, that is the Great Wildebeest Migration, to the incredibly rich biodiversity and people who converse in over 60 languages, Kenya had for the longest time been the haven of tranquility, the leading safari destination in the world, its human resource, the envy of Africa. It is a country that birthed one who would become its most compassionate and selfless leaders, a patriot and foremost diplomat on 24th December 1953, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka.
I was not born in a hospital. I was born in the bush, and I therefore grew up like a normal kid, looking after goats and sheep.
I, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka.
And it is this home Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka rescued from fire on 9th January 2008 when he was sworn in as President Mwai Kibaki's third vice president. It was the truce that led to the formation of the Government of National Unity. On his relationship with the
So when, of course, it became now necessary for President Kibaki to reach out to us as ODM Kenya, his party was PNU, the country was burning. The negotiations were very interesting. It was shuttle here and there, but we were not guided by what eventually would happen. The immediate thing was to save and rescue the nation state of Kenya and to stop the bloodletting. And that is when then, of course, I was given the privilege to serve as the 10th vice president of our country. Not appointed by Kibaki, but negotiated position. It was the first negotiated position and the first coalition before the Kofi Annan-led talks that brought on board our friends from ODM. Yeah, before ODM came in, there was a coalition between PNU and ODM Kenya, which stopped the bloodletting. And Kenyans should be able to remember that. If that had not happened, even Kofi Annan and others would have come in too late. The country would have fallen off, and I don't want to claim credit, but it is important to record our history and accurately, and sometimes to reflect a little backwards and ask ourselves, what would have become of Kenya if Kalonzo did not join with President Kibaki to rescue the nation?
On his relationship with the third president, Kalonzo had this to say.
You're a Democrat. You have weathered a lot of turbulence so far for the sake of all of us in this country.
President Kibaki was an amazing person. He really was so good. He made everybody feel at home. You remember his clarion comments sometimes like enjoy. Yeah, even when difficult moments were facing us, enjoy, relax. But of course, at other times, he would use tough language like something ya kuku, all right? But that was him. Even then, you know, in African tradition, mzee akifika umri huo, he can say things which I can't say. That was President Kibaki. But I had a wonderful working relationship with him. And I think at the tail end of his presidency, I remember him holding a bakora and driving through Machakos to Kitui for us to go and plant trees. I remember telling the people of Machakos, now I've really enjoyed working with Vice President. Sasa tumsaidie tumpeleke mbele. The people felt he had endorsed me, and they went all over the newspaper rooms and recordings to try to pull that up. But that was Kibaki and as he was. But of course he had himself an illustrious history. Very successful Minister for Finance during the First Republic and even I think after. And minister that one time even I remember the American publication Newsweek or something saying that Kibaki was in the category of Africa's most promising leaders. It lived to be exactly that. And so it was a privilege working with President Kibaki. But sometimes he also listen. He would take a position like now when it became necessary to appoint a deputy prime minister following the Kofi-led emirs. The country was more important than one Kalonzo Musyoka or even President Kibaki himself or Raila Odinga. So that working relationship was amazing, and eventually we were able to jail together. And so I remember President Kibaki want to appoint Uhuru Kenyatta as the deputy prime minister. Now in my capacity as vice president, I went and sat him down and gave him my serious advice. He looked at me, and although he didn't answer, Uhuru became deputy prime minister because he would listen to sound advice. So for me, working with Kibaki and Raila in the Grand Coalition arrangement was an amazing thing. That's when the country also grew. The country's economy grew, and our approach to infrastructure grew. Our commitment to Vision 2030 also was evident. We even were able to identify some of the flagship projects. But that was Kibaki. And he would listen. But sometimes he didn't also want anything named after him. I've always wondered why. Yeah, because Ambassador Muthaura, head of the public service, comes to me and he says, this wonderful piece of infrastructure funded by African Development Bank, the Thika Superhighway, is so magnificent and so amazing. Why don't you ask President Kibaki to accept that we name it after him, like Kibaki Superhighway? Oh, I was good. It's a good thing. So I went, we had coffee with Mzee Kibaki in his Harambee House office, and after that I introduced the subject. And so President Kibaki looked at me and he said, Vice President, na huko hii barabara inaenda hakuna jina. That was the end of the discussion. That was Kibaki for you. And of course in his retirement, I'm quite sure he knows that his vice president served him with a sense of loyalty and commitment, both to himself and to the country. And I think it is important that if you have a boss like what has been happening in Jubilee is completely out of order, unacceptable. You cannot have a deputy who is undermining the president. Then there's no country to run. And I think evidently now Kenyans can see the difference between Kalonzo as vice president of Kibaki and others who are currently serving.
The perfect candidate's journey to the State House was fraught with immense challenges right from the start. His first entrance to competitive politics did not go, and he lost to the incumbent Kitui North Member of Parliament Philip Manandu by a staggering margin in 1983.
Kuanguka ni kitu kibaya sana. Nilianguka sio kuibiwa kura kama siku hizi, nilianguka vyenyewe. Kashindwa kapata 10,000 zangu 3,166. Na aliyetushinda alipata 16,000.
2 years later, an unfathomable tragedy resulting in the death of Manandu opened the political doors for Kalonzo. He has never looked back. In all his positions in government, having first become the Member of Parliament for the then Kitui North constituency between 1985 to 1997, and now Mwingi North constituency between 1997 to 2013, Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka's name has not been besmeared with allegations of corruption or failure to deliver. From 1986 to 1988, he was the Assistant Minister for Works, Housing and Physical Planning. No scandal. He was elected as Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly from 1988 to 1992. No scandal.
Mimi Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka naapa kwamba nitaitumikia vema na kwa moyo thabiti Jamhuri ya Kenya katika kazi zangu za waziri.
From 1993 to 1998, he was the Minister for Foreign Affairs and International Relations. No scandal.
Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka naapa kwanza
From 1998 to 2001, he served as the Minister for Education and Human Resource Development. No scandal. From 2001 to 2002, he was the Minister for Tourism and Information. No scandal. For 16 years, between 1988 and 2004, he was the KANU National Organizing Secretary. No scandal. When NAC came to power, he was assigned the ministerial portfolio of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation from 2003 to 2004. No scandal. From 2004 to 2005, he served as the Minister for Environment and Natural Resources. No scandal.
Naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Kenya na kuitumikia kwa moyo wangu wote, na kwamba nitahifadhi, nitailinda na kuitetea katiba ya Kenya kwa mujibu wa sheria iliyowekwa.
And from 2008 to 2013, Kalonzo served as President Mwai Kibaki's most loyal Vice President and Minister for Home Affairs. No scandal. It is instructive that not since Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka's tenure has there been a substantive Minister for Home Affairs, nor has there been an assignation of the same portfolio by two different presidents to one person, that is Foreign Affairs. These traits speak to the temperament, tenacity, and trustworthiness of Kalonzo, and the reason why he is the most respected go-to diplomat in Africa. From mediating the Sudan and Somalia peace talks to the establishment of the 8-block, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development IGAD, to arbitrating in the Democratic Republic of Congo DRC and leading election observers delegations in Africa, Kalonzo's firm but guiding hand is clear to see.
The Sudanese
peace and clearly demonstrated to the world that they are determined to choose peace.
Kishe kwa shangwe Rais mtarajiwa Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka.
In his economic blueprint for the country, the man has seen many highs and experienced a number of lows, having served in governments of President Daniel Arap Moi and Mwai Kibaki. Promises to steady and stabilize the economy and create new opportunities for the country to return to the growth trajectory when elected as president come 8th August 2022.
We have made it very clear on 5 points. It's important, but the 5 points, but they're pregnant with hope and expectation. You know, hope is important. I remember in my campaigns in 2007, I kept on telling Kenyans to keep hope alive. And you know, in the Bible, hope is described as evidence of things hoped for and not seen. But without hope, you cannot really grow an economy. But beyond hope, you also have to be practical. And that's why we've talked about 24-hour economy. And within that framework, we can even talk about the need to empower our youth. Our youth, one area we much commend first, I think second President Mzee Moi, education. And Kenyans will remember even served as Mzee Moi's Minister for Education when I started to talk about things like Jom Tieng conclusions in Indonesia, lifelong learning, and then conceptualize the idea of free primary education, which we then, under NAC government, were able to realize. So I proudly feel that I was part and parcel of giving Kenyans free and compulsory primary education. We are talking about now secondary education being free, because the burden the Kenyan parents are having is unbearable. Even post-COVID, it's not possible for Kenyan parents to pay. And you know, we want to restore the dignity of the Kenyan family. There's nothing more painful than a parent seeing a student coming home, a girl child, a boy child, and say, Mom, Papa, I've been thrown out of school because of school fees. We want to really re-engage the family at that level and remove the burden, because it is doable. So free primary, free secondary education. We're also talking about when President Kibaki and I at the time brought in cable connectivity, fiber connectivity, that we laid 2 major fiber optic cables in the Indian Ocean, for example, and that was a tremendous investment. Public money was spent in that area. This is why I don't understand why big corporations cannot similarly give free data to the Kenyan youth to be able to do what they are actually becoming world famous for, innovation. Recently, President Kenyatta shared with me what he found in Manyani. Some of these youths are doing incredible things in terms of innovation. Now, if you give them free data, you can imagine what they are going to do within the framework of the 24-hour economy. We're also looking at agriculture, green gold, I call it, green gold, and improving agriculture, making the Kenyan farmer get return for their investments. You can look at agriculture as serious business. In fact, we must also bequeath our youth so they can also use data to grow. You can do agricultural data engineering so that, again, the market for our products, our coffee, our tea, you know, Vietnam, if I can give you an example, Vietnam actually got the example of our Ruiru 11, and they have beaten us in terms of production of coffee and even marketing the same. Our coffee gets value addition becomes a big issue. We will do all these things to make agriculture truly the gold which is in our midst.
Kalonzo's bid for the highest seat in the land is based on 5 pillars. Among them, a 24-hour economy, anti-corruption, reduction of taxes, free secondary school education, and converting help into a grant, and green gold revolutionizing the agricultural sector. As the presidential election draws near, voters must choose which qualities they will look for in the candidates. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka checks all boxes. Ability, tick. Honesty, tick. Leadership, tick. Intelligence, tick. Integrity, tick. Compassionate, tick. Accountability, tick. Dedication, tick. Patriotism, tick.
I know Kenyans are tired, and they're actually saying, whom shall we believe? I asked them, you know the story of again in the Bible, Caleb and the spies who were sent, and the first group came back and told Moses, hey, those guys are tall, impossible. Hey, we look like grasshoppers. But Caleb came and brought a positive report. I wonder, Kenyans, whose report will you believe when it comes to the fight against corruption? And whose report will you believe when it comes to credibility of leadership, integrity, so that when we say we are fighting corruption, you will believe our report? Kenyans, whose report will you believe?
He is the perfect candidate for the presidency of the Republic of Kenya.
Wapi makofi mazuri. Kalonzo Musyoka, tick. Our delegates, tick. Viongozi wetu, tick. Basi wakati huu kwa heshima na taadhima viongozi wetu nimtamuita University of Nairobi Faculty of Law Brian Owiti and Virginia Walinga for a narrative 2 minutes. Tuwapigie makofi, tuwapigie makofi.
When Masaku started his journey from the Mboni Hills,
he was consecrated by the religious leaders.
Itumia Ma Itembo.
And that is why we have to start from the beginning.
In the beginning.
In the beginning.
When the earth was void and formless, God said, let there be light.
And immediately, light filled the whole of Wiper County. Greater
and brighter
than the quotes of Mahatma Gandhi.
Then God took dust from the soil,
molded it into a man,
and breathed into it
the breath of life.
Then God took this man to Kitui County
and said to him,
please be fruitful and multiply.
Then God put man in charge of all creation
and gave him dominion over all the citizens and the society as a whole.
As a society, we are proud of your achievements.
And that is why we decided to come here once more with a letter to perform in front of you. Dear seniority, it is with utmost concern that I write this letter.
I hope you are well.
I know that if you are not well, I cannot help, but I just had to ask to make this letter look official.
Ever since the days we were born, we have always seen you on TV, and you have been our inspiration.
And just like Britam, we always felt insured every step of the way.
With the help of Mr. Peter Marangi,
we crowned you and painted your face in all the walls of Kenya.
And with their help, as a man free from all political propaganda.
Like a fruit, very fresh, yenye haina maganda.
Like a man, a former vice president, without any vices, just virtues, values, and victories.
You did politics without any defamation or any degradation.
You were shot bullets of spite.
And without any bulletproof vest.
You didn't give any ammunition.
So now we truly ask ourselves, in whose hands are we truly safe? You have continuously made a common law doctrine
to stand on grounds that favor Kenyans through humanity.
Even though it has sometimes put you in harm's way. In the words from the legal dictionary, volenti non fit injuria. You are a legal counsel. I'm sure you get that.
And with this color of blue that represents intelligence and responsibility,
we take the beat with the R and the blues, soft for musicality.
Because out of all the blues, you will come out with authority.
For a man with ability and a strong personality.
And just like Paul in the biblical epistle,
you shall rule without any ego.
You shall face the fears of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
For thy is the kingdom,
thy power, and thy glory,
forever and ever, inshallah. And since this is a short letter to you,
we decided to vaccinate you with words of wisdom.
If you continue to treat these elections normally, these elections will treat you abnormally.
Yes.
Yours faithfully, Silas Brian Owiti.
And Virginia Waringa.
From the University of Nairobi, Faculty of Law, Nimubea
Society.
And before I forget, we have a show, a play from 3rd to 5th of December, the SM Otieno case in the University of Nairobi Taifa Hall. Kindly, you are all invited to come and watch this play that is scheduled from the 3rd to the 5th of December. Time is at 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. Tumewatafuta, tafadhali, kujeni watch play. A society without art is a society without culture. And a society without culture is a society without history. And a society without history is a society without any significant future. Come and watch the play. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Asante sana. I wish to recognize the following. We have a special delegate, friend of the party leader from Zambia, Mr. Banda Boyle. Welcome to Kenya. In our midst, we have CS Kala from Machakos. We have CS Wavinya Ndeti from Machakos. Party leader, allow me to also recognize the team that was a coordinating team led by Engineer Gideon Muliongi. Thank you for an excellent job. I would like to also recognize the presence in our midst, because 5 years ago, Your Excellency, we were here and we had a different chair, but he has come so that he can join us today. Former chair of Wiper, David Musila, is with us. When we recognize members of parliament and aspirants, I forgot to mention former members of county assembly, former members of parliament, and former councillors. Mumekaribishwa sana, sana, sana.